Welcome back, everyone, to Sip and Talk. I am absolutely buzzing today, and I have to be honest with you, it is not just the triple shot espresso I just downed. Though, that is certainly doing some heavy lifting right now. The energy out there on the trading floor and the newsrooms, it is electric.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from in this wild world of ours. Welcome back, Sip and Talkers. I'm Joe, here to help keep the pulse of the world, and sitting right across from me is the guy who usually needs a brake pedal installed.
Hey, I resemble that remark, but you are probably right, and today I feel like the brake line has just been completely cut. I'm vibrating at a frequency dogs can hear. But honestly, you mentioned keeping the pulse of the world right now. That pulse is racing.
It really is. It feels like we are living through history in real time today. The kind of stuff people are going to be writing economic textbooks about in 20 years.
Exactly. So let's just jump right into the hook. The big news that dropped yesterday. Is this a massive relief for the global economy, or is it an absolute disaster waiting to happen? Because we've been watching Trump use tariffs as this sort of cure-all for a while now.
Right, like a magic wand. Wave it, and the trade deficit supposedly disappears. But yesterday, Friday, February 20th, 2026, the Supreme Court SCOTUS basically slapped a giant "you can't do that" sticker on his entire strategy.
It wasn't even close. It wasn't one of those squeaker 5-4 decisions where you were squinting at the swing vote trying to figure out the legal gymnastics. It was a 6-3 vote. That is a loud message.
It's a massive message. Chief Justice Roberts wrote the opinion, and he essentially told Trump that he cannot use emergency acts from the 1970s to act as the, quote, king of taxes.
King of taxes. I love that. It sounds like a terrible comic book villain.
It really does. But the court made it crystal clear that the power of the purse in taxation strictly belongs to Congress, not the Oval Office.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately because this is a legal earthquake. The core shift here revolves around the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. We call it IEEPA.
Right, IEEPA.
Trump had been using this specific act to bypass Congress and unilaterally slap taxes on imports. He was basically saying, we have a national emergency, so I get to do what I want with trade.
And the Supreme Court just looked at the executive branch and said, stay in your lane. The ruling explicitly stated the executive branch cannot unilaterally assume indefinite taxing power.
It's a huge constitutional pivot. And the reaction from Mar-a-Lago was, well, it was exactly what you would expect. He is furious.
Completely livid. But before we get totally lost in the political drama, let's lay out our agenda for today's Sip and Talk. We are calling this discussion Breaking SCOTUS Shakes Trump's Tariff Empire and the 150-Day Countdown.
That sounds like an action movie. The 150-Day Countdown. I feel like we need dramatic music.
We have a packed show for you. We are going to look at this legal earthquake, obviously, but then we are going to pivot to something a little creepier happening in the retail world with AI. And finally, we'll take a tour of the global jitters from Japan all the way to the Middle East.
So grab your coffee or your tea and let's dive right into segment 1, the legal earthquake. So explain this to me like I am 5 years old and I just want to know if my sneakers are going to be cheaper next week. The administration lost the court case. Does that mean tariffs are just gone?
I really wish it were that simple, but it is actually more like a giant game of whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole, like the arcade game.
Exactly like the arcade game. You stand there with the mallet, you hit one mole, and what happens? Another one instantly pops up from a different hole. The Supreme Court hit the IEEPA mole. They smashed it. They said, no, this law is for actual national emergencies, not permanent economic policy.
Right, like wars or terrorist attacks, not just because you want to negotiate a better trade deal with Europe.
Spot on. But the very second that IEEPA mole went down, Trump popped up from another hole. He immediately pivoted.
The Swiss Army knife pivot.
Yes. Think of the IEEPA like a machete. A machete is big, blunt, you can hack through anything and you can swing it forever. That is what he wanted. But the court took the machete away. So he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a smaller blade. Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974.
Section 122. It sounds so bureaucratic, like a parking violation code. But this little section actually packs a serious punch, doesn't it?
It does. It allows the administration to impose a maximum tariff of 15% to deal with severe balance of payments deficits. Trump didn't waste a single second. He set it at 10% globally.
But, and this is the massive but, that changes the entire landscape. It comes with a very strict expiration date.
Like a carton of milk. It goes bad in exactly 150 days.
Wow. So unless Congress actively votes to extend it, it just vanishes. The clock started ticking yesterday.
It completely flips the script. It turns what was essentially a dictatorship of trade policy into a desperate negotiation. Now, the administration has to go to the House and the Senate and beg them to keep these taxes alive.
And that is a totally different ballgame. Let's circle back to the legal reasoning for a second, because you brought up the major questions doctrine earlier, and I think you really need to explain that to everyone listening.
The major questions doctrine, it sounds very academic, but it's the bedrock of this ruling. Essentially, the justices said that on major questions of immense economic or political significance, like rewriting the entire tax code or restructuring global trade, and an agency or an administration cannot just act on their own based on some vaguely worded law from the 70s.
They need explicit, undeniable authorization from Congress. The people's representatives have to sign off on a change that big.
Precisely. The court basically gave the executive branch a vibe check on the Constitution. And the fallout from this is going to be incredibly messy, particularly when we talk about the refunds.
Oh man, the refunds. This is the part that makes my head spin. If the previous tariffs under the IEEPA were illegal, which the highest court in the land just said they were, does the government have to give all that money back to the importers?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question right there. We are looking at potential refund chaos. Estimates suggest the government might owe importers anywhere from $150 to $175 billion.
$175 billion. That is not pocket change. That is shut down the national parks kind of money.
It is staggering. And think about the fiscal impact. One of the main selling points of these tariffs was that they were cutting the budget deficit. The administration was bringing in all this revenue and claiming it was fixing the national debt.
And now not only is that revenue stream completely threatened, but the Treasury might have to write a massive check to pay it all back. It's a double whammy. It's like losing your job and then finding out you owe back taxes on the salary you just lost.
Which perfectly explains the reaction from Mar-a-Lago. Trump gave a speech last night, and he did not hold back. He called the ruling a constitutional shame. He specifically called out Justices Gorsuch and Barrett, labeling them traitors.
Which is wild considering he nominated them to the bench.
I know. He claims this ruling completely destroys his leverage against China and the European Union. And honestly, from a pure negotiation standpoint, having the ability to unilaterally drop a massive tariff is a big stick to carry into a room.
Oh, absolutely. If you walk into a trade negotiation holding a live grenade, people are going to listen to your demands.
But the court just confiscated the grenade and replaced it with a tiny firecracker that goes off in 5 months. If you are Beijing or Brussels, you just look at that countdown clock and say, I can wait 150 days, can you?
It's a fascinating dynamic shift, but let's bring this down to earth for a second. For all the sip-and-talkers listening while they commute or do the dishes, they are probably thinking, okay, the legal stuff is neat, but does this mean prices at the grocery store are actually going to drop?
You would logically think so.
Yeah.
The tax goes away, the cost of importing goes down, so the price on the shelf should go down.
But logic rarely applies to modern economics, right?
Especially not in 2026. And this transitions us perfectly into our second segment. While everyone was glued to the Supreme Court drama, the retail world went full sci-fi.
You're talking about the AI spies. This stuff gives me the creeps. Let's talk about the retail battlefield. Let's talk about Walmart and their new little algorithmic friend.
Sparky.
Sparky, it sounds so innocent. Like a little golden retriever puppy running down the aisles. Here, Sparky, let's judge the cereal.
It is definitely not a puppy. Sparky is Walmart's new AI shopping assistant. And on the surface, on your phone app, it looks incredibly helpful. It helps you find products, it suggests recipes. If you put pasta in your digital cart, it pops up and says, hey, here's the garlic bread you usually buy.
Super convenient. I mean, who doesn't want a personal shopper?
Right. But underneath that friendly interface, Sparky is running a dynamic pricing operation on a level we have never seen in retail history.
Dynamic pricing. That usually just means surge pricing, right? Like when it starts raining and suddenly your Uber ride costs $50 instead of $15. Are you telling me they are surging the price of toothpaste?
They are surging the price of everything. But it is much more personalized than an Uber. Here is the real scoop. Sparky isn't just looking at warehouse inventory or supply chains. It is looking directly at you. It calculates your personal price sensitivity.
My price sensitivity. How on earth does an app know how cheap I'm feeling on a Tuesday morning?
It scrapes data points you wouldn't even think about. Your location, obviously. If you are standing in a high-income zip code, the price might subtly tick up. It tracks your purchase frequency. If you buy the exact same brand of organic coffee every single week, the AI knows you are fiercely loyal.
So why give me a discount if they know I'll buy it anyway?
Exactly. But it gets crazier. There is massive industry speculation right now that the AI even factors in your phone's battery life.
Wait, hold on. My battery life? You have got to be kidding me. How is that legal?
Just think about the psychology. If your phone battery is at 5%, the little icon is flashing red, and you are frantically searching the app for a specific charging cable or a headache medicine you need immediately.
I am panicking. I just want to click buy before the screen goes black.
Exactly. You are vulnerable. You are desperate. You are not going to spend 15 minutes opening the Target app or checking Amazon to cross-reference the price of a charger. The AI knows you have no time.
So it bumps the price up. That charger is suddenly $25 instead of $20. It discriminates on price in real time based on my digital anxiety.
It is terrifyingly brilliant. Two people could be standing in the exact same aisle, looking at the same gallon of milk on their apps, and see two different prices just because one of them has a full battery and time to kill.
And the numbers prove this is working, right?
Oh, absolutely. The shocking stat from Walmart's earnings report this week: customers using Sparky have a 35% higher average order value.
35%. That is not a rounding error. That is a massive extraction of wealth directly from the consumer's wallet.
And here is the grand irony of this entire week. The administration is fighting tooth and nail for tariffs, claiming they are protecting the American economy. The Supreme Court is debating the constitutional limits of taxation.
Meanwhile, the AI algorithms are just silently adjusting prices in the background to absorb those costs or pass them on, completely ignoring whatever the law says.
If the tariff gets repealed and the cost of importing that cereal drops, Sparky might just decide, well, they used to paying $5. They paid $5 all last year. Let's just keep it at $5 and we'll pocket the extra margin.
So the consumer never actually sees the savings. The AI acts like a buffer. Sticky prices, weaponized by machine learning.
It really makes you want to start paying in cash and leaving your smartphone in the car when you buy groceries.
Honestly, yes, I'm going off the grid. But let's look at how the stock market digested all this. Because logically, if you have a massive legal ruling that kills a giant import tax, retail stocks should have gone through the roof.
We should have, but the market reaction was completely bizarre. It's really a tale of three different retailers.
Let's break them down. First up, the behemoth Walmart. Ticker symbol W-MT.
They just posted unbelievable earnings. Fourth quarter revenue broke $190 billion.
Sparky is literally printing money for them.
But despite that, and despite the tariff ruling, the stock actually dipped. It went down about 2.7%.
Why? That makes zero sense. They have AI price gouging and a tax break.
It's a classic case of profit-taking. The stock had run up so high in anticipation of these good earnings. When the news finally hit, huge institutional investors just decided to cash out their chips, buy the rumor, sell the news.
Okay, so Walmart is fundamentally fine, just experiencing some stock market gravity. What about Target?
Target was the undisputed winner of the day. Target relies heavily on imports. Tons of home goods, apparel, things manufactured overseas. And unlike Walmart, they don't have that terrifying AI pricing power yet.
Right, if Target raises prices too much, people just drive down the street to Walmart.
So those carrots were slowly bleeding them dry. When the court blocked the IEEPA tariffs, it was a multi-billion-dollar lifeline thrown directly to Target. Their stocks surged.
Makes total sense. But then we have the tragedy of the week, my absolute favorite place on earth, the land of the 5-pound tub of mayonnaise and the $1.50 hot dog, Costco.
Costco, the hero who somehow lost the day on Wall Street.
How does the hero lose? Weren't they the ones who actually sued the government over these tariffs in the first place?
They were the first major player to file a lawsuit. And look at how they treated their customers. While everyone else used tariffs as an excuse to jack up prices, Costco kept things stable. They leaned on their membership fee revenue. They aggressively hoarded inventory before the taxes hit so they wouldn't have to pass the cost to you.
They took the hit for us. They held the line on the rotisserie chicken. So why did their stock fall after they legally won the battle?
Two reasons. One, the global 10% alternative tariff Trump instantly announced spooked investors. But the bigger, weirder reason is something called the liquidation issue.
Liquidation? Like a going out of business sale?
No, it's a very specific customs term. When a company imports a shipping container of goods, they pay the estimated tariff, and that customs entry file stays open for a certain period. Eventually, Customs and Border Protection officially closes the file. That is called liquidation.
Okay, I'm following.
Once an entry is liquidated, it is legally incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible to reopen it to get a refund.
Oh, no.
Because Costco imports such an astronomical volume of goods constantly, a huge chunk of their customs entries from the past year might have already liquidated.
So even though the Supreme Court just declared the tax illegal, Costco's money is basically locked inside a government filing cabinet forever.
Exactly. They won the moral victory. They won the legal victory. But the actual cash refund might be a ghost.
And Wall Street hates uncertainty. Plus, Costco plays the long game building intense customer loyalty, while Walmart plays the short game protecting quarterly margins with AI, and Wall Street almost always rewards the short game.
It's a harsh reality. Speaking of harsh realities on Wall Street, let's pivot to segment 3, the technology sector. Because the so-called Magnificent Seven are having a serious meltdown.
Yeah, the Mag 7 correction. For 2 years, the only narrative we heard was, AI is the future, buy every tech stock, do not ask any questions. Now suddenly the adults are entering the room and asking a very uncomfortable question.
Where are the profits? Investors are looking at what we call the CAPEX bomb.
CapEx being capital expenditures.
Right. The tech giants are spending an unfathomable amount of money on AI infrastructure. We are talking over $650 billion.
$650 billion. To put that in perspective, that is the GDP of a medium-sized country. And they are spending it on data centers, cooling systems, and specialized chips just to make chatbots run faster.
They are betting it's the next industrial revolution. But look at Microsoft. Their stock just took a 12% nosedive. That is their worst single-day performance in 6 years.
Microsoft moving 12% in a day is like watching a glacier suddenly sprint. Why are they getting hammered so hard?
Because they are the poster child for this massive spending, without an immediate proportionate return. They're buying the chips, building the servers, but the actual revenue coming in from their AI Copilot subscriptions. It's not covering the massive checks they're writing yet. Wall Street wants to see the ROI, and they want to see it today.
But it's not a bloodbath for everyone. Apple is actually up, which feels counterintuitive if AI is crashing.
Apple is playing a different game. They are pivoting hard toward AI hardware. Wearables, the new iPhone cycle. Investors love that because it's tangible. You buy a physical phone, Apple gets paid immediately. It's a much simpler business model than trying to monetize cloud-based AI queries.
And then sitting on top of the entire mountain, completely unbothered by any of this, is NVIDIA.
The undisputed king. Because it doesn't matter if Microsoft's AI makes a profit or if Meta's AI makes a profit, they all still have to buy NVIDIA's chips to even play the game.
It's the old gold rush analogy. Don't mine for gold, sell the shovels. NVIDIA is selling the shovels for $1 billion apiece.
And everyone is lining up to buy them. You really cannot talk about these advanced chips without talking about the geopolitical elephant in the room, Taiwan.
The Silicon Shield. This is where the story gets incredibly tense. The administration keeps throwing out rhetoric about how Taiwan supposedly stole the chip industry.
But the reality on the ground completely contradicts the political talking points. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, just officially confirmed that mass production of their 2-nanometer chips started late last year.
2 nanometers. For anyone who isn't a semiconductor engineer, that is unimaginably microscopic. It's the absolute bleeding edge of human engineering.
It is the ultimate insurance policy for the island. The administration can complain all they want, but the global economy literally cannot function without Taiwan right now. If you want the AI revolution to continue, you need those 2-nanometer chips. Nobody else on the planet can manufacture them reliably at that scale.
So even if Trump slaps a massive tariff on tech imports, these tech giants will just pay it. They have no choice.
TSMC has absolute pricing power. If a tariff hits, TSMC just shrugs, adds the tax to the invoice, and passes the cost directly to Apple and NVIDIA.
And Apple and NVIDIA pass that cost directly to us when we buy the new iPhone.
We pay the tariff because we want the device with the battery-sniffing AI that changes our grocery prices. It really is a vicious cycle. All right, let's zoom out even further. We've covered the U.S. courts, the retail algorithms, and the tech giants. But we have listeners all over the world, so let's take a spin on the Sip&Talk World Tour. Segment 4. Let's start in Asia. What is happening in Japan?
Japan dropped a massive economic bombshell that completely went under the radar for most Americans because everyone was watching the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
The Bank of Japan, the BOJ, officially raised interest rates to 0.75%.
Okay, 0.75%. I have to laugh a little because here in the U.S., we are sweating over 5% rates. 0.75 sounds like free money. Why is that tiny fraction causing shockwaves?
It comes down to something called the carry trade. This is a foundational concept in global finance. For years and years, Japan has kept their interest rates at near zero or even negative.
Right. They basically paid you to take out a loan. So massive global hedge funds and investors would borrow billions of Japanese yen because it was practically free. Then they would take that borrowed yen, convert it into U.S. dollars, and dump it into high-growth U.S. tech stocks. NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft.
Oh, I see. Borrow for free, invest where the returns are huge, and just pocket the difference. It's an infinite money glitch.
It was an infinite money glitch until yesterday. Because now, borrowing that yen isn't free anymore. It costs 0.75%. And simultaneously, the yen is strengthening against the dollar.
So the machine is jamming.
Exactly. These massive funds are being forced to unwind their trades. They have to sell their U.S. tech stocks to get the dollars to convert back to yen to pay off their more expensive loans.
So a massive wave of money is just exiting the U.S. stock market and flying back across the Pacific.
It hurts those big tech stocks just as much as the tariff relief helps them. It creates this violent cross-current in the market. A legal ruling pushes the stock up. A banker in Tokyo pushes the stock down.
Everything is so deeply interconnected. A central bank in Japan sneezes, and my retirement account in Chicago catches a cold. What about Europe? I was reading something about a new green alliance.
The UK and the EU just struck what they're calling a green trade deal. This is essentially an economic immunization strategy. They're watching the chaos in Washington, they see the tariffs flying around, and they are trying to build a firebreak.
Fortress Europe.
They are agreeing to trade green technology wind turbines, electric vehicles, solar panels without tariffs between each other, specifically to bypass the unpredictability of U.S. trade policy.
And I saw Spain is getting pretty feisty, too.
Spain is threatening a digital sovereignty tax, a flat 5% tax targeted directly at U.S. tech giants like Google, Meta, and Amazon if the U.S. administration decides to target European goods.
Wow, a digital tax. That is a direct shot across the bow. You tax our olive oil and wine, we will tax your data.
It's a textbook tit-for-tat escalation. The trade war is expanding into the cloud.
And finally, we have to look at the Middle East, which is, frankly, the most somber note of the broadcast today.
It truly is. We are witnessing a massive U.S. military buildup in the region right now. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group has been deployed. Multiple F-35 fighter squadrons are arriving. Tensions with Iran are at an absolute breaking point.
And beyond the terrible human costs and the global fear of a wider conflict, there is a harsh economic reality attached to this as well.
The energy markets. Brent crude oil just spiked over $71 a barrel.
Which feeds right back into the inflation loop we've been talking about all hour.
Exactly. Even if the Supreme Court strikes down tariffs, making imported goods slightly cheaper, if the cost of oil skyrockets because of a war in the Middle East, the cost to ship those goods, the cost to heat your home, the cost to fill your gas tank, it all goes up.
So the consumer, you and me, we still get squeezed from a different direction. It highlights how terrifyingly fragile this entire system is. You plug one hole in the Supreme Court, and a geyser erupts in the Strait of Hormuz.
That is the modern global economy in a nutshell.
Okay, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today. We are coming up on the end of the show, so let's try to synthesize all this chaos. We always like to ask, so what? What does this mean for the Sip&Talkers listening right now as they go about their week?
To summarize the core of what we discussed, the highest court just stripped away the administration's blunt instrument, their machete, which was the IEEPA. That is a massive victory for constitutional checks and balances.
But the administration immediately pulled out that Swiss Army knife, the 150-day emergency tariff.
So the trade war is absolutely not over. It just has a very visible countdown clock attached to it now.
And for the everyday consumer, you probably shouldn't hold your breath waiting for prices to magically drop at the register, because retailers armed with AI like Walmart's Sparky are going to do everything in their algorithmic power to keep those margins high.
They will quietly absorb any supply chain savings to pad their own bottom line rather than passing the discount to you. And internationally, that Silicon Shield in Taiwan proves that true geopolitical power right now isn't just about aircraft carriers. It's about 2-nanometer chips.
The next 150 days are going to be hypercritical. It is a high-stakes game of chicken between the White House and Congress. Will Congress officially extend these new tariffs? Will they let the clock run out? Or will the administration's lawyers find a third obscure loophole from the 1960s to exploit?
It's going to be a fascinating, turbulent few months.
He gives a final thought to close out, something provocative for the audience to mull over while they process all this.
I think the most crucial takeaway today is to train yourself to look beyond the massive, bold headlines. When you get a push notification that says tariffs ruled illegal, don't just passively assume your life is getting cheaper.
You have to look at the hidden architecture underneath.
Exactly. Look at how artificial intelligence is actively manipulating the prices you see on your screen. Look at how a tiny interest rate hike in Japan can cause a tech stock crash in New York. Look at how military movements halfway across the world squeeze your wallet at the local gas station. It is never just one isolated event. It is an incredibly complex web of interacting forces.
That is fantastic advice. Independent thinking is the only way to survive this kind of news cycle. We don't take political sides here. We just put the messy facts on the table and try to make some sense out of them.
That's all we can do.
Well, that officially wraps up this extensive look into the legal, retail, and global madness of February 2026. Make sure you hit subscribe on your podcast app so you do not miss our next update on Sip&Talk. We are going to be tracking that 150-day countdown clock very, very closely.
And before we go, do not forget to check in on our old friend Mickey. Go search for Mickey to Life on YouTube. He just posted some brand new travel vlogs, and honestly, watching him hike through the Alps is the absolute perfect mental escape from all this economic stress. So definitely go check out Mickey to Life and give him a subscribe.
We will see you all in the next broadcast. Stay curious, everyone.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.